Many tend to think of intelligence as something fixed. You're born with a certain amount, and there you have it. Well, a new study shows children who believe intelligence can grow pay more attention to and bounce back from their mistakes more effectively than children who believe intelligence is fixed. Here to tell us more is developmental psychologist and Mount Sinai Parenting Center co-founding director Aliza Pressman, also co-founder of Seedlings Group. Welcome, Aliza. So great to see you.
Great to see you.
So this study that came out of Michigan State pretty much confirms what scientists had already thought about children, correct?
Yes, well, there's been a lot of research from originating with Carol Dweck about growth mindset and the idea that intelligence that you think of as malleable, if you think that way, you're going to improve and get smarter versus people who think that their intelligence is fixed and set, they won't be as good at working and problem solving. So this was now brain science that's backing that up.
Amazing. So the takeaway being that you can work your way to getting smarter. Now studies show that children can also work their way to getting smarter. That's fantastic. So this particular study was done with children around the age of 7. And why is that age so significant?
Well, that's an age, so the age here was between 6 and 8, and that's the time that you're transitioning into formal schooling, and that can cause a lot of opportunities for learning and for falling on your face and failing, but with low risk and low stakes. So kids who can learn these skills early will do better in middle school, high school, and beyond.
So give us an example of what happened during the studies. Kids were given tasks to complete,
I'm going to simplify this too much, but basically they were given, first they were asked a number of questions to determine where they are in terms of growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And then they were given a task, think of it as just a computer task. They measured how the children did the task, the speed at which they made mistakes, bounced back from them, if they bounced back from them, and then how they did ultimately on their performance.
So interesting. So the children who were identified as having a growth mindset, which means the children who believed they could improve their intelligence, showed what?
Those children showed bigger brain growth when they made mistakes because they were attending to it.
So they were paying close attention to their mistakes, closer attention to their mistakes than the children who believed their intelligence was fixed.
Correct.
So interesting. And then when they performed the task again, those children with growth mindset
improved. So they actually learned from those mistakes, probably because they attended to them. When you pay attention to something, you're going to actually learn from it and bounce back.
Fascinating. So let's talk about our own children. When we're looking at our child at home, how can we identify whether my child has a growth mindset or a fixed mindset?
Well, pay attention to what they say and how they respond to criticism. So if they're saying things like, I'm not good at this, or I'm not a math person, for example, they probably have a fixed mindset. If they're ripping up a piece of paper and throwing it on the ground in frustration because they got something wrong or because you noticed an error, that means that they really need to work on realizing that a mistake is not a huge problem, but rather an opportunity for growth. So thinking of them as kids who really need to focus on, it's not practice makes perfect, it's practice makes progress.
Interesting. And as we were talking earlier before the show, Adele last night at the Grammys was an example of this. Correct?
Yeah, so Adele showed something to kids, I mean, cursing aside, that was bleeped out, but that we never get to see, which is looking at someone that kids look up to, an adult who's really, really successful, who made a mistake in front of millions of people and said, you know what, I'm going to do this again and I'm going to do it better. And she did, and that is growth mindset. I was observing in a class where a science teacher asked kids a bunch of kids a difficult question, and one girl raised her hand and she said, you know, I don't know if I'm going to get this right, but I'm going to give it a try. That is a child with growth mindset. Same thing, she's willing to just fall on her face in front of people, but probably going to learn from it.
So what can we do to encourage this in our children?
Starting at a young age, if anytime you hear or say or find yourself saying, like, I'm not a math person or I'm not good at this, add the word yet, so that you're already opening up the idea of growth mindset.
And things can grow.
I saw a very clever thing in a classroom I think should be in all households with young children, which is get rid of the erasers. Take them off the pencils, don't have them, make mistakes, something you cross out very openly, and you're not hiding. You're actually thinking, this is part of the process. We want to see this. So they don't even grow up thinking mistakes are something you want to hide.
So you don't erase your mistake, you leave it there so you can go back and reference it. It's actually part of the process.
And you'll pay attention because you're even just the process of crossing it out, you're paying attention.
It's so fascinating. So then how does it follow when it comes to praise? How should we properly praise a child?
Well, make sure you're giving the message that you want to get across. If you want them to have a growth mindset, don't praise them by saying, you didn't even study and you did so well on that test, you must be so smart. The message there is, when I work hard, it's letting my mom know I'm not smart enough, so I had to work. That's a negative thing. So you really want to praise that process, not the outcome, and you want to praise things that are in their control.
So when they come home with a great grade on an exam, you say, that's fantastic. I know you worked really hard to get that grade.
If they did work really hard,
yeah.
then you absolutely can say, you know what I loved? I loved that I watched you work so hard and I watched your brain grow and it showed in your grade. But if they didn't work hard, you can say, thanks for showing me that. I'm glad you did that, but I'm more interested in the one that you worked really hard on. So show me that grade.
Right, because a lot of kids, you know, sort of breeze through the earlier years in school and they think, oh, wow, I'm so smart. And then they hit 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade where you really have to study. And some of those kids suddenly think, oh, because this isn't easy anymore, maybe I'm not so smart.
Yes, and then they avoid taking on intellectual challenges, so they'll just stick with the subject that they're good at because they want that praise, that they're smart. So they'll say, I'm really good at reading and writing, so I'm going to focus on that, and I'm just going to shy away from math. I'm not going to be good at it ever, and then maybe nobody will notice.
So as a parent, you need to be alert to that. You need to be alert to that age when they first are starting school and to that age when they're starting to hit some difficult periods at school, right? Yes. All right, I'm ready, Aliza. Thank you so much for arming me with all this great knowledge.